Montreal's mayoral candidates are in the final stretch of campaigning, with municipal elections just under 2 weeks away now. And joining us is political analyst Justine McIntyre. Good to speak to you, Justine. The election is coming up really quickly.
Really quickly, yeah, 10 days about. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not too far away now, and there's going to be advanced polling on Sunday as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of issues have been discussed on the campaign trail. Chief among them, homelessness. It's a huge issue,
Mhm.
as we know here in Montreal. We know shelters are overflowing, encampments have become a part of the city landscape. So what are your thoughts on what you've been hearing from the candidates about how they would deal with this issue if they become the next mayor?
Well, it's obviously a huge issue for Montrealers, and we've just come out of a public consultation on the topic of cohabitation because there's so much visible homelessness. And the result of that public consultation was essentially to tell Montrealers, look, we need to learn to live alongside one another better. We need to show more empathy. We need to understand that these people are also Montrealers and that they're experiencing homelessness right now. All of that is true. But what we're hearing from the mayoral candidates is actually that they're all proposing more services for people that are currently living in tents. They're all proposing, none of them is proposing to dismantle the tents. All of them are proposing to offer further services until we can get enough housing to get people off the streets. So it's really interesting because they're all on the same page when it comes to that, with everybody saying that they're going to increase budgets. But there are a lot of concerns from residents at the same time about exactly that topic of cohabitation. We're seeing it in Hochelaga, we're seeing it in
Hmm.
Pierrefonds as well. So all
Hmm.
across the city, it's still an issue for residents.
Yeah, you mentioned Pierrefonds, so it includes the West Island, which people, might not necessarily expect, but that is the reality. It's happening in the West Island too. And speaking of the West Island, but turning to a different topic, yesterday we reported on the contentious race for mayor in Pointe Claire. So today, a new development related to the current mayor, Tim Thomas. Can you update us on that?
Right. Well, yes. So there were complaints brought against him with the Commission municipale. So they were ethics complaints. There were four charges that were brought against him, ethics related, and he finally received a judgment yesterday. And I think that the judgment really vindicates Tim Thomas's position because three of the four complaints were completely dismissed. There remains one complaint that was upheld, and it has to do with his use of a city vehicle. Now, he does explain on his Facebook page that there were circumstances around his use of the city vehicle. First of all, there's a long tradition of Pointe Claire mayors having access to a city vehicle to go to and from meetings, and that there is some amount of personal use that is involved with that vehicle and is sort of allowed with that vehicle. So there's a custom behind his use of the vehicle. He also talks about the fact that he had access to a hands-free phone system in the vehicle, and thirdly, that his mother was experiencing health issues, which caused him to use the car so that he could make calls from the car while he was going to take care of his mom. So it's sort of a lot to unpack, but essentially, he is still arguing that he made proper use of the city vehicle, which, by the way, he stopped using once the complaint was filed. And I think that the city is really going to have to look at how they're managing that. But I do think that ultimately this decision of the municipal commission is a vindication for Tim Thomas, who is, of course, right now seeking re-election in Pointe Claire.
Well, ultimately, it will be up to the voters of Pointe Claire to decide. And I should mention the other mayoral candidates, of course, former Mayor John Belvedere and current City Councillor Brent Cowan as well, running against Tim Thomas. Thank you, Justine.
My pleasure. We'll talk soon, Maya.